Hello, my name is Allie Yarrington, and today I will be speaking about my experience with dissociative identity disorder. So, dissociative identity disorder is most commonly referred to as multiple personalities, as it is a split personality kind of thing, where people have, different personalities. It's actually really demonized in Hollywood and popular entertainment. Like, take for example the movie Split, where he kidnaps people and he has a personality that's called the Beast that actively kills people. Now, that's pretty much entirely inaccurate, as most people with split personalities are entirely harmless, not violent at all. In my personal experience right now, I have what's not split personalities, I have splintered personalities, so I'm actually aware while they're going on. It's more of growths off my brain, to use a weird metaphor, rather than completely split brain. So I have personalities that influence what I'm doing, thinking, speaking, all that kind of stuff, but they aren't completely taking over my brain. I'm still me. So far I know of two personalities, and they are, I call them alternate Joy, which my actual name is Joy, my stage name is Ella, or AJ for short, and Being. So AJ is one I really do not like. She is masochistic, which means she likes to hurt me. She is, I suppose, sadistic if we think of her as a separate personality. And she's really just very self-sabotaging, just in the way she influences my thinking and wants me to do stuff and makes me think about myself, really. I think my therapist has referred to as a manifestation of my own self-doubt and self-consciousness, which she comes up in times of stress and at night when my medication has worn off. And speaking of which, there's no real cure for dissociative identity disorder, but there are pills and ways to cope with it. Me personally, I'm taking an antipsychotic called Abilify right now, and that helps me a whole lot because along with dissociative identity disorder, there are also various dissociative and depersonalization, derealization symptoms. Back to the personalities though. The other personality is Being. She is a bit more reserved, shy, but very responsible. And I think she comes out in different times of stress when I need to get something done. And I myself, I'm not very responsible. I'm not very good at doing things, and so I think she comes out just to help me out, and I appreciate her, and I do refer to her as her, but in my mind she's not exactly a she, more of just a being without a shape inhabiting my body is what I like to think of it as. So I had mentioned depersonalization, derealization, dissociation before, and that basically means just a whole disconnect from reality. So depersonalization is where you don't feel like yourself, and that commonly comes along with dissociative identity because you don't feel like yourself. But it's kind of like if you look in a mirror and you say, that's not me, I don't understand who this person is. Or, if you just think about, I have a lot of self-reflective moments where I'm like, I'm an actual person. I don't understand this. Depersonalization is actually really hard to describe, so I'm going to move on to derealization, which can actually take the form of hallucinations, which I do get. So I hallucinate sometimes things getting really big or really small. So I like to use the example, I have a stairway in my house that goes down to the kitchen, and we have a chandelier in the kitchen. So I was sitting on the stair the other day, and all of a sudden the chandelier looked like it was filling up the entire room. Like Alice in Wonderland, except it was the chandelier instead of Alice. So it was that way, and the next moment it was back to normal. And then another time I was in my bed, and all of a sudden I felt tiny, like my bed was 10 feet across. And then it's back to normal. And I don't really understand why these things or when they happen. I know they happen sometimes when I'm having a panic attack, but other times they just happen randomly during the day. And so that's derealization. There are other forms, but that's really what I experience. And then there's just straight up dissociation, which again is really the separation of reality to yourself. And so I feel when I'm experiencing dissociation, I feel like there's like cotton in my brain that's separating my brain from the entire world. And like I'm just not part of this world. I'm entirely self. Like I exist only within myself, if that makes any sense. A lot of this is very hard to explain, and I am just one who experiences it. I'm not a therapist. I don't have technical terms for it. I don't have all the information. But, this video is about sharing my experience. So with dissociative identity disorder, back to that, I experienced derealization, depersonalization, dissociation, and the personalities influencing me, not quite taking over, because I still know when it happens. I do experience, however, dissociative amnesia. So especially with AJ, when she comes around, if she makes decisions or makes me do stuff, I oftentimes will not remember it or won't remember what I was feeling or thinking at the time, which is kind of scary because, just imagine not being able to remember parts of your life, and especially when there's a personality coming out, that's pretty self-sabotaging. Although the worst things that she makes me think or she, gives me impulses for, I do remember and I'm able to talk to my therapist about, so that's really helpful. Being, on the other hand, they haven't come out as much. It hasn't come out as much. And I do remember, and I notice a difference in how I feel, my posture, and how I feel physically, a lot more than what's going on in my head. But also what's going on in my head, obviously, because it's a splintered personality. So dissociative identity disorder is pretty much often to all the time caused by a childhood trauma. And along with dissociative amnesia, I also have pretty much no memory whatsoever of my life, of my childhood. So I can't quite pinpoint what that trauma was, and so I'm working through it with my therapist. To give you an idea, I just graduated high school. I don't remember anything before my freshman year. And then freshman, sophomore, junior year, I remember bits and pieces, but if you asked me when something happened, I couldn't exactly place when it happened. I know what people tell me, and I have bits, it's like bits and pieces, but on the whole, it's a whole black, void kind of thing in my memory. It's like, I know I was 10 years old once, because obviously I'm older than that, but I don't remember what it was like to be 10 years old. And I don't remember, I just have these huge gaps, so I don't exactly remember what the trauma was. I just remember, more recent stuff, especially with realizing I had dissociative identity disorder. I can piece together in my mind things that have happened, and I'm like, that was AJ, that was being. So, yeah, I think, just to wrap it up, dissociative identity disorder is not demonized, or it's not awful like society has demonized it to be. People actually, they live their everyday lives. People who meet me wouldn't actually know that I have dissociative identity disorder. When I tell people, they're quite surprised. We can live normal lives. We are not violent more than anyone, mentally healthy is violent, except in very, very rare cases, I suppose, because everyone is different. We do perceive disconnects of reality. And so be patient with us if you know someone with dissociative identity disorder, because it is quite hard to live when you're experiencing depersonalization, derealization, dissociation, any of those kind of things, just because you don't feel like a regular person. You feel like you're on an entirely different plane of existence. It is often caused by trauma, so if people don't want to talk about it, don't force them to. And there are different types. Like me, I experience a very mild form of DID. Like I have just splintered. I don't have split personalities, I have splintered. And yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you for listening to me.